Ivan Eland is a senior national security analyst at the Independent Institute. That's a nonpartisan public policy think tank. He joins us now from Canada, from Washington rather. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
So do you have the same concerns that people will be unfairly targeted based on these new changes to security?
Yes, I think there's several big problems with this. When you profile people from various countries, you're taking on a lot of innocent people are going through there, so you may lose track of the people that you really want to follow. That is by behavioral profiling instead. The second thing is when you alienate large communities of the Arabic world, because most Arab Americans, to take an example, going to pilgrimage or to see their family will be affected by this. Now, when you alienate, as we did after 9/11, these communities, you get less intelligence on possible terrorist attacks. The third thing is this would not prevent al-Qaeda from recruiting other citizens of other countries that aren't in these 14 countries in the group. For instance, Richard Reid was a British citizen. Zacarias Moussaoui was a French citizen. That wouldn't be covered by this. So there's all sorts of ways to get around this, and I think this profiling is not only a violation of civil liberties, but it's really quite inefficient, and it's not a good method of fighting terrorism. It's simply ineffective, and I think many more people could slip through the cracks.
So what do you think is the U.S. thinking behind this?
Well, I think any government, after you uncover a blunder like this, has to do something to show it's doing something. And I think an example of this was the first thing they did was say, well, in international flights, everybody has to sit down for the last hour. Well, the bomber didn't try to go to the bathroom and blow the bomb off. He tried to do it from his seat. And also, you really don't need to stand up or sit down for a full hour, because most of that you'll be going over the countryside. They wanted to prevent plane from crashing into a city. Well, you could do that with the last 20 minutes. So they've now pulled that. We have a tendency to overreact and then pull back. Now this requirement is optional for the pilots of a particular plane. They can make their own decisions about that. So I think any government has to sort of show it's doing something, and we don't always do the right thing just because these are added security measures. We don't know if they're effective.
Let me ask you this, and this is not clear to me. I hope it is to you. These 14 countries on the list of those to be scanned prior to flying to the United States. Is it up to the source countries now to do the scanning, or are U.S. officials on location at those airports and they are going to be the ones scanning these either foreign-born nationals or those leaving from those countries headed for the United States?
Well, I think it'll be a combination of both, but many of these countries are probably too poor to put in the scanners. So I think what this means is that the citizens of these countries are going to face pat-down searches and that sort of thing, of course, before they get on the plane, one way or the other. Now, to some extent, they're going to have to depend on the countries to do this themselves, and whether you'll get the cooperation that you need, the full cooperation. Of course, the countries will say they're cooperating, but on the other hand, this has to be done there before they get on the plane to come to the United States. So you are going to have to rely on the security agencies of the various countries in one way or another.
You know, traveling used to be easy. Now with all these security roadblocks, I wonder if it will damage the airline industry with people flying less, looking at alternatives instead.
Well, this always has puts a damper on air travel and reduces the demand for it. The problem that we have now is that the security agencies are making these security procedures and requirements unpredictable to foil terrorism. But of course, it's also unpredictable to the public. Are you going to fly if you think that you might be held up at an airport for 3 or 4 hours before the flight versus, say, 1 or 2? Because you'll have to go early because you don't know what to expect at a particular airport. So this unpredictability hurts the airline industry, and I think that's one thing that does push back on excessive security, is that the airlines squeal and say, hey, listen, we can't make any money because you're driving people away from flying.
Well, one final question to you before we let you go, and that is we're expecting our minister to come out and announce this afternoon that there will be those virtual scanners introduced, those body scanners at airports across Canada. Do you think that will make a difference, in addition to, I suppose, making people feel safer? Would that have caught the Nigerian bomber as he boarded his plane in either Nigeria or Amsterdam?
Well, it might have, but even when you put in scanning equipment like that, any person who studies these types of things will tell you that you still have humans in the loop, and you can't be 100% effective because people get tired. You know, they work a shift and they get tired towards the end of it. Something else may catch their attention. So this is not a panacea, and I also think it's a severe invasion of privacy. We have to start saying, can we prevent any terrorist attack? The biggest thing that happened after 9/11 was that the public had operated with a different security paradigm. Before they said, hey, this hijacked airplane will probably be taken to Cuba or someplace and everybody will live, or almost all the people will live. After 9/11, the passengers and the crew became very surly because the paradigm was, wow, we're all going to die because we're going to be crashed into a city or a building or whatever. And so what you saw in the Richard Reed shoe bombing case and also the underwear bomber case is that the passengers and the crew are very proactive in taking these people out. And I think that's the good news here, and I think we've got to take advantage of the people on the airplanes.
Okay, Ivan Eland, thank you so much for your thoughts. Appreciate it.
Thank you.